I'm Chad Burgo with the Maplewood Communications Division. I'm here today with Officer Alesia Metry from the Maplewood Police Department. Alesia is transitioning to a well-deserved retirement after 34 years of service. Alesia, thank you for coming in today.
Thank you.
You bet. What's the best part of your job here at Maplewood?
The best part of the job is the people. The cops that I've worked with, the other employees in the city of Maplewood, and just the citizens that live and work in Maplewood are phenomenal.
In your years of service, how have you seen the city change over the period of time?
Well, the 17 years that I've been with Maplewood, I think probably the biggest change is the diversity of the community. During that time period, I've seen a large influx of Hmong population move in, as well as Somalians, and now we have the Karen community also moving into Maplewood. So it's become a very diverse community and a very interesting community.
Police officers are often put in difficult situations. What do you find are the most difficult situations for you to respond to?
It's situations with kids. And whether it is the child that's actually the victim of a crime or it's responding to a domestic in which maybe the child isn't the victim, but they are the victim because they're the ones seeing mom and dad fighting, or they're seeing, mom under the influence of drugs. So any situations in which it's difficult for children, those personally for me are the toughest ones.
Have you ever pulled up on a situation where you just kind of shook your head and you just can't believe what you're seeing?
Oh yeah. I grew up in a fairly normal two-parent middle-class family. My dad was a teacher, my mom stayed at home. I thought that the Maury Povich show and Jerry Springer, I thought those were actors on there until I got into this job, and I'm like, oh, heck no, there's a lot of these people out there. And whether it's involving drugs or extramarital relationship or who's father and that kind of stuff, it gets really crazy sometimes. I always liked the ones, I always used to joke with, that people would call the police so they knew we were coming, and you'd get there, and there'd be the guy standing there in his underwear. It's like, what, you knew I was coming, why didn't you put your pants on?
You've been excellent to work with. You've really embraced the social media aspect. That's one thing that I'm definitely going to miss, how creative you were, and you actively pursued it.
Honestly, when I got an iPhone, I had to take it home so my two teenagers could show me how to load apps on it, because I didn't know what an app was or how this worked, and they were like, Mom, this is the coolest thing ever. And they're like showing me how to add stuff on. So that was my knowledge of social media and how technology worked. But what I've discovered is with the Maplewood Facebook page and our tweets and that stuff, we have solved so many crimes by posting suspects' photos out there. And people respond immediately. Officer Kong had a case last week where he posted a lady who had stolen some purses on social media.
I saw that.
Within 20 minutes, he had two people call and both said, yep, that's who this is. So, I mean, it's phenomenal. Plus, using it to alert people to what's going on. What are our crimes that are going on out there? What do you need to do to protect yourself?
And do you think it's the reach that you have, or just the willingness to kind of rat out somebody?
When we put somebody out there and people call and say, this is who that is, it's because they don't like what that person's doing. They're stealing money from the elderly, or they're stealing purses from cars. And so they have some ethics and values, and they say, I'm going to help put a stop to this.
How do you see law enforcement in the future?
I see kind of the path that we're going down right now, extended. For example, transparency. We're all wearing body cams now. The cops love body cams because the body cam puts out there what actually was said and done and what happened. So there's no question about what was involved in that situation. It's a great device for us in terms of recording victims. I can write down a victim was distraught and crying and shaking, but when you see it on video, it's worth so much more. So I think the technology, body cam being out there is huge. Also, the direction that our chief is going with community outreach programs. And right now, we've been doing a lot of those in the last year and building great relationships with our schools, the teachers, the businesses, the citizens, just making that connection because that's how you keep crime down.
You ever pull anybody over for going 2 miles over the speed limit?
If we're doing DWI enforcement, we pull people over for everything. Not that we're looking to issue a ticket for having a headlight out, but it's 2 o'clock Saturday morning, I'm looking for that drunk, and that headlight out gives me the reason to pull them over.
Sure.
And sometimes it's just, hey, wanted to let you know your headlight's out or your tail light's out. And if they're not intoxicated, they say, thanks, I'm going to get it fixed, and away they go. You know, you don't ticket it for them. The other ones I tend to cut a break to our teenagers, because I know that if I issue that kid a citation, that is going to jack his father's insurance rates through the roof. So who am I punishing? You know, I'm punishing the kid's parents or whatever. And I like to let parents deal with issues. So I have actually had times where I have called parents on the phone. You know, I'll pull them over and he's going 15 over, and I'll say, you have a cell phone? Yep. Get your mom on the phone for me. And he calls his mom, and I say, hey, it's Officer Metry. I wanted to let you know that Jimmy is driving 15 miles an hour over the speed limit. Now, if you want, I can issue him a ticket, or you can deal with it. And, oh, yeah, Mom's happy to deal with it. Years ago, Maplewood taught DARE, and I loved teaching DARE. Some of those kids had never had a good relationship with the cops. The only time they saw the cops is when we came to the house to pick up Dad on a warrant or whatever. So it was about making that good contact with the kids. And I remember I had a DARE student at presentation. He was kind of a character, but he was a good kid. So that young kid grew up. About a year ago, this young kid comes, and he comes in as our new CSO. And he says, Officer Metry, do you remember me? And I'm like, what's your name? And he's like, Connor Salchow. He said, you were my DARE officer. And I'm like, oh yeah, I remember you. And here he is, our CSO, and he's now going to apply to be a Maplewood cop. What
lies ahead for you, Alesia?
You know, I'll find some sort of a part-time job, because I'm not going to sit at home and watch TV all day. But I have 2 grandsons who are 3 and 5, and I need to spoil them a little bit more. Just this morning, actually, went over and talked to the principal at St. Jerome. I have a teaching license, and so I'm going to do a little volunteering over there, working with kids that need a little extra help in reading and math. So,
great.
Yeah, enjoying myself.
Well, after 34 years in law enforcement and 17 years here, we'd like to thank you for your service, and we wish you all the best in your next career here.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.